Make sure everything's going on. Make sure everything's rocking and rolling. YouTube, we're gonna rock and roll soon. Sure hope we are. Sure hope we're. Maybe not. This is a long hold, man. It's a really long hold. Been here for like 30 seconds now. Why was that so? Dude, that was a crazy long. I've been streaming live for like a minute now. How you guys doing? Welcome back to I guess the show that a lot of people show up for and watch and everything. I'm gonna be here for really as long as you guys want. We can talk about whatever you guys want. Thank you guys for thank you very much for showing back up. Very quickly, just want to point this out that we do have new pricing on the site. We had a lot of packages, last year and the year before. We have had a price increase in regards to the SaberSim Ultimate package, but still you get that with all of our stuff. This is the monthly packages that we offer here. If you want to save money, or if you're a big time baller and you like swinging for the fences and stuff, we do have pretty decent annual costs. Yet again, I mean, I have my projections and stuff, but really like what we're pushing is being partnered with SaberSim in addition to Goldie's projections, in addition to my projections, in addition to Sheets's projections. By the way, happy to say, or we can at least use it as a selling point. Bobby did win $1 million 2 weeks ago, so we do have a millionaire winner on the site. Just pushing that out there to get that out of the way. So as we look towards the Clash, now yet again, I have done several videos on the Clash entering this weekend. And once again, we have a bit of a smaller window in order to get the our lineups in between the end of the LCQ and the start of the main. Anywhere in the realm of an hour to 30 minutes, I would give it more, or I'd lean to the bigger window. But either way, we're just waiting on the final three guys to be thrown into the player pool. All we have to do, or at least all I have to do there, is just go ahead and give them the the starting positions and stuff, and we'll talk about the variables of who that could be and how I think he should use them. Past that, we can talk about the practice laps if you guys would want. I don't think that they are going to be that helpful. Now, you might be like, why is Chastain, all on an island here and everybody else is way down here? You got to remember that Chastain's transponder was not working during the first session. So if you guys, or if we're looking at that, that's what we're seeing here. And I just didn't want to reformat everything to push his stuff deeper in, where we can very easily just look at everybody's here. The reason why it's labeled like this is because I was just looking specifically. If I'm going to look at the practice laps, I'd rather it be the second time everybody went out on the track. Now, granted, there's a bunch of variables and caveats on that as well. Whether it's people burning through the tires, the fact they have a heat cycle on them, the fact that guys are able to make changes, and so if we're looking at one thing for practice, it'll be the second groups. But even then, kind of iffy. I'm still leaning more towards using what we saw from the heat races and how everybody drove. Combine that with the previous races, specifically the 2024 Clash and the 2022 Clash. We can go over these as well if you guys haven't seen the videos on those. But let's see where everybody is at right now. We do see a grand total of 22 you guys here joining me on a Sunday morning. Thank you very much for being here. What's going on, Michael? What's going on, David? Zach to the future. Hey, man, if you are able to find me, you can. I have really bad service at Atlanta Motor Speedway, okay? Last year I came back to like 7 or 8 DMs of people being like, hey, let's meet up at the track. I never saw any of that stuff. So you're going to have to find me at the track. I'll most likely be wearing my KISS jacket, but I'll be at Atlanta in 3 weeks. Let's see. Can you keep Seats out of... Oh, I'm... Look, if Sheets isn't winning, you say that, and Sheets just won, yet again, more League of Legends. I tied for first 2 or 3 days ago and stuff. It's literally us just playing League like every night. Anyway, let's get to the NASCAR picks really fast. So anybody watching this on replays and drilling their ears out with a screwdriver. When we look at and I'll check chat in a minute. When we look at the starting grid here, actually, screw it. We're just going to go through the races again. Now, when we look at the clashes that I want to look at specifically, the reason I'm looking at 2022 and 2024 is because those are the smaller field races. Now, yes, Bowman Gray is a different design, okay? I apologize. I've had a terrible cough the last couple days. Got my tea, got my honey. and everything. So if I start coughing or whatever, that's why I'm drinking this. Um, when we look at how these races played out, and honestly, I kind of like 2022 even more due to the variance that we had with mechanical failures that people had. But when you look at where people performed and what happened here, in this race, we had Hamlin, we had Priest, we had Reddick. Well, Priest was in a Rick Ware car, but you look at the guys who started up front in this race, and we'll go ahead and go here. You look at where everybody started in 2022, and you look at the amount of mechanical failures we had in this race. So, when we had the first yellow, we had both Reddick and Chase Briscoe fall out of the race due to mechanical failures. We had Hamlin have mechanical failure as well. I forgot if it was at this point. It doesn't matter. I've already talked about it in videos, but they all had mechanical failures of some sort, whether it was steering, whether it was suspension, whatever happened. Okay, so and in this race, Reddick was the fastest guy. He was the fastest car right off the bat earlier in this race, and he broke. Okay, same thing with Briscoe. Briscoe was driving up through the field, ran into an issue, and everything like that. And so, why do I almost lean towards enjoying 2022 even more? Well, the variance that we had in this race with people either being spun out, like we see, Elliott being spun out here, or people running mechanical issues, specifically of the guys in top four not finishing the race, almost leads to what we could potentially see in this Bowman Gray race. Now, I think this race is going to be, and yet again, the fork in the road is, how stupid we get late in the race. But I think if you're starting the top four, specifically if you're on the top four on the inside at the start of this race, you have a significant advantage of maintaining track position, of leading laps, of not getting ran over and killed. Okay. The madhouse and all the stupidity is going to happen in the middle and in the back of the field. Okay. So at that point, really anyone past the sixth starting position or even fifth is subject to a high amount of variance, more so than what the leaders will be. Now, yet again, when we look at 2024, we see Ty Dillon run into issues late in the race. But for the most part here, we see the fast guys once they were taken out of the race. Actually, we can probably reset this so it's lined up more with how they finished. You see that a lot of the guys who were in the top of the field, and when I mean that, I'm looking at like the top three, top four running positions, you were able to stay up there late in these races, okay? As long as you got up there and stayed up there, you had a high likelihood of finishing up there. And how do you do that? Well, you end up starting in the top four, okay? Now, yet again, we lost Reddick, we lost Briscoe. Haley started third, also ran into an issue. This one he got wrecked by Larson here. But you see two of the top four starters in 2022 finished up front. They were the majority leaders. And when we look at the optimal for that race in 2022, it was Kyle Busch, Logano, Austin Dillon, Jones, Kevin Harvick, and AJ Allmendinger. Now, Truex also gained positions. Harrison Burton gained 10 positions. We see that there is a lot of place differential between these guys in the back of the field, and that's due to people being wrecked out, people running into mechanical failures and stuff like that. When we look at last year's race, now again, I'm not using 2023 because there's 27 cars in that field. Okay, I think the car number has much more to do with it than the track in terms of looking at a DFS slate, what slates are more important to look at than to not look at. Okay, so when we look at 2024 and the optimal here, I just asked the buddy. That's why I didn't go. I mean, this is an old sheet, as I've indicated. This is from a couple years ago. But the optimal last year was Blaney, Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Ty Gibbs, Briscoe, and Nemechek. That was the optimal. Now you look at where people started in this race. Wrong way. I don't remember which one I just clicked. Did it again. Oops. Whoops. Whoopsie daisy. Okay, so this is the starting grid, and we see that there's a ton of turmoil in the middle of the pack. Okay, so these are guys who finished anywhere from second to third in their heats. They weren't fast enough to either hold the lead in the heat, or they were just fast enough to pass some people, but then they still are starting in between 7th and like 15th and 16th and stuff. And we see that there's a lot of bouncing up and down here. We see Brad getting moved back early. We see, once you get by the initial restart, everybody's kind of in line, so on and so forth. And we're kind of just maintaining your running position. You see the top three guys are kind of just there. Nothing's really going on. And then yet again, we see, some guys get moved over. We see Larson go from 6th to 1st, but for the most part, once you get through the restart and we're through in terms of where the fast cars are running, in terms of fast cars actually getting in front of the slower cars, right? Like, we saw it in practice. We saw it in the heat race, specifically in practice. Whenever there was a slow car, the fast guys are able to get around them. Okay. Yeah, sure. We're running like 14, 15-second lap times, but there's still a pretty big difference between the fast cars and the slow cars. I don't really see a situation why there would be slow cars in front of people who are significantly faster than them once we get 10, 15, 20 laps into a run. Okay. We're going 200 laps tonight, and we have potential of seeing kind of more issues, sure, probably in the back of the field, but I don't really see variance hitting the start of, or hitting the upper portion of the starting grid early in this race. Yet again, we get to the halfway break last year. We only had one yellow. We had two yellows right off the bat, and we see that happen, yet again, kind of right in the middle of the pack, where, and especially where this restart zone is for this Cup Series, I think that gives a really significant safety net to the leaders, and specifically the leader. The fact that the restart zone, unlike all the other series at Bowman Gray, where the restart zone is in 3 and 4 in the corner, NASCAR has elected to move the restart zone to being in the middle of, or down the straightaway. So the leader has a significant jump on the field. We still have several cars in the field that are going to be exiting turn 4 when the leader is going green, or when the leader is taking off. And so we're probably going to see, similar to what the heat races were, I'm going to lean heavily towards, the leaders, or the top 3 or 4 guys, pulling away, kind of driving their own race and not really dealing with stuff until they drive into traffic. The whole pack and the whole calamity and the whole where we're going to get place differential from is most likely going to be in the middle of the pack. Okay. Which is why people who were starting dead last, who are starting in the back of the field, are such a safety net, because they can't lose you any positions. They're already back there. They only benefit from chaos and whatnot happens. Anyway, yet again, quick rundown of 2024. We see that we have literally really not changed anything. We look at the leaders between 133, and it is Ty Gibbs, Logano, and Hamlin. You look at where they started, and these individual drivers started third, second, and first. Okay. Like, the fast guys are going to just be up there all day. Okay. And both of these races, 2022 and 2024, ran long until we got a yellow late in the race, to where, calamity showed up in this race, since Ty Gibbs was the leader and he led so many laps, even though the fact that he was taken out and, technically didn't even finish the race, he was still optimal. And then it was just down to the people who were able to lead the other amount of laps, which is, Hamlin winning the race and stuff. So we see Ty Gibbs being optimal. We see Brad Keselowski being optimal, who drove from and who benefited from late race on the last lap calamity as a guy who just fitted in. We see Blaney, who started last year. My bad. He was the championship provisional, which is a high likelihood that we see Blaney as the last card again this year. We see Chase Briscoe as a driver who started, or who made it in through the LCQ, started second to last, finishes 7th. We see Nemechek, who apparently gets there by just, by being there on the salary level. The fact that we ran into a lot of expensive drivers last year, and the fact that we just needed value to come through, that lent to Nemechek being in here. When we look at this year's race and we see the top 4 here now, yet again, whether you went into this race, expecting Hamlin, expecting Joe Gibbs, expecting Reddick or whatever, it has just come out, or it has just happened, that the guys who have been good at the LA Clash are happening to start up front in this race. Now, yet again, is that because this is similar to the LA Clash, because they're fast? I would lean towards that, just how it ended up shaking up. And really nothing more than that, because this race from a salary level, we focus on just, where these guys are starting from. So when we look at Elliott, Buescher, Hamlin, and Reddick, okay, all these guys won their heat races. My biggest concern of these 3 guys would be Buescher. Okay, we have seen him not be as aggressive as these other guys, and the fact that he was being ran down in the second race. I don't think Buescher has the speed that Elliott, Hamlin, and Reddick have. Okay, now when I'm constructing my lineups, as we have seen how important the lap leaders are in these races, I'm probably going to prioritize 2 of the 4 starting position guys in most of my lineups. Now, because it is, Bowman Gray, I will probably have 2 lineups that are just straight stacked from the back, build of chaos. All the guys who started front get taken out early, but that is really not what I'm expecting in this race. Yet again, a majority of my interest this month is going towards Daytona. Probably gonna be playing close to $1,500, if not $2,000 that weekend. My goal is to try and get enough money to max, which is I forgot what max is for this one. Yeah, it's a 24. I would love to try and get 6 to 8 lines in the Screaming Eagle, but that's going to be dependent on what the truck and Xfinity and the duels happen. So if I am able to play in the Screaming Eagle, it'll be several thousand. Right now, it's just 1,500 for the weekend. So that's my main focus. So for me personally, for this clash, I'm only going to do 12 lineups. Obviously in the 10, 4, whatever, right? But the way that I'm approaching this is going to be heavy on the top 4 and then prioritizing, the back of the field. Okay. And yet again, we're, 8 hours or 9 hours away from the start of this race. We don't know who the LC got. We don't know who the last 3 guys are. I think that's kind of irrelevant at this point. It is very important for obviously projections. If you are using a site or an optimizer or whatever, and you need the, the correct, or you need everything, filled out to project ownership and stuff, well, then clearly that puts you at a really tough pickle, working with trying to get stuff in last minute and, get ownership or whatever. But the fact that we can kind of go ahead and assume who I would play or what I would do here. Now, yet again, Blaney is most likely the guy who is going to get in regardless, due to finishing second in the points last year. Guy behind that in points is Kyle Larson. So Larson needs to race his way in, or need Blaine to get in, which I don't think Blaine is going to finish top 2. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is what I want to talk about here is who I would be playing if they make it in. Granted, like I said, Blaney is pretty much one of the guaranteed starters here. Okay. Past that, I would very much be interested in playing Larson and playing Ty Gibbs. Once we get to this situation here, and yet again, I'm highlighting get the guys in green because when this comes, to 30 minutes before lock, 15 minutes before lock, when you're all scrambling of like, where's the ownership going to go? What's going to happen here? I've already gone through and pretty much understand where I'm going. I'm just waiting for the actual guys to be, announced of who they're racing or who's getting in and stuff. But who are the people that I would have interest in here? And it has to be more the good teams. Okay, we've seen now yet again, Nemechek made it in last year. We might be a bit tighter on salary this year because we have Bowman, we have Chastain in the back of the field. We're going to have most likely 2 9K guys starting in the back of the field. So salary is going to be pretty tight this week. Okay, there's a real chance that this slate, if we're chasing Elliott, we're chasing. Well, Reddick is probably the best, safest play because he's 8,400. Okay, when we're getting into a situation here of figuring out where this thing's going to go, like if you look, well, I guess my face is covering it, but like where this little block is, and we're looking at averages here, and we're looking at the average. But if you're playing Elliott and Reddick, yet again, Elliott starts first, like he has a significant advantage here. I have laps going to both I have laps going to Elliott, laps led rather. I have laps led going to Elliott, Hamlin, Reddick, and Busher, and then smaller ones throughout to like Briscoe or Logano and whatnot. But the big 3 who are going to lead lap or who I've projected lead laps would be Elliott, Hamlin, and Reddick. Okay, when we're looking at the average salary that you're spending on a slate like this, and we're looking at, we'll just use it as an example. We have Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick. That leaves you 8,800, or that's 88. Actually, fucking hold on. What am I even doing here? Let's bring this up, right? So we're looking at Elliott, Reddick. Okay, so the reason I'm choosing these guys is because they're cheapest. If we're using, Denny Hamlin, say if Blaney or Larson gets in, we're spinning up quite aggressively. So starting with your lap leaders is going to be important. Actually, we'll just start with the most expensive guys to make this point probably more apparent here. So you start with Elliott and Hamlin as an example. And then you're like, okay, who are the people who are going to get in? Well, we're probably going to need Blaney, right? Because he gets in there. And so we're at a really, really tight salary right off the bat. Okay. So then you start diving down, and there's a real chance that we're not going to have really a lot of these guys in this race. Are we even looking at 6K guys who are in this race? We're seeing Hocevar, we're seeing Suarez. SVG is kind of too aggressive, or not aggressive, but starting too high up for our likelihood, or for our liking. And the fact that we probably won't really have a lot of the value here is going to send us down a route where we're having to make choices on our expensive guys. Okay, we're going to have very little value to work with. So yet again, we're seeing we're in a bit of a rough situation here. That's probably going to lead to Reddick being played a lot, being very popular, fit into a lot of lineups, because there's very little difference between Reddick and Hamlin today, okay, in terms of what their outcomes on the slate can be. It'll then come down to what their salary is. And so when we're in a situation like here, where we're playing with a lot more salary, okay, we continue with that. And people in the back of the field that I would want to play, Larson, Blaney, Gibbs, obviously, right? We continue to go through who are people that we would ideally like to get to if they make it into the race. I would say Justin Haley, probably straight up. So we'll add him to the list. And this isn't necessarily filling out this lineup. This is answering the question in your head. Maybe if you're like, oh, I wonder who Cruz has interest in if they make it in. These are probably the 4 guys that I would realistically feel confident in any situation playing. Past that, if Michael McDowell makes it, we're probably playing him because he's $6,400 and we need the salary. If Jones makes it, we're probably playing him because he's $6,100 and we need the salary. There's a real likelihood that the LCQ 1, 2, and point stand, which is this, like I said, this will probably be Blaney or Larson. This is Blaney or Larson, actually, not probably. Point standings, this is starting 23rd is Kyle Larson or Ryan Blaney. Okay? I doubt both of them make it in. We don't have to really worry about other situations other than that. So the fact that this is probably going to be the way that a lot of lineups look, whether you're going Reddick and Elliott, whether you're going Hamlin and Elliott, whether you're going Hamlin and Reddick, So, probably from a tournament perspective, you probably want to have some interest in Busher, because then you could probably have Busher and Reddick, and you're able to pay up for more expensive guys in the back of the field. Like, these are all the avenues of line construction that we have today. Let's go ahead and exit that. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So past, now that we're kind of talking through this and figuring out where we want to go and where the field's going to go, the 23rd starter is probably going to be optimal. I think there's a real high likelihood they're going to be optimal. Okay, we look at what Blaney did last year in almost an identical situation of having no speed and just starting last and surviving the chaos. Okay, the only way he doesn't make it is if he gets crashed out. When we look at where do I even have these fellas? What is that sorted by? Where are we at? Who started 23rd this year? We see, I guess it was Wallace. Let's see what kind of led to Wallace going. But yet again, it's going to be Larson or Blaney. Obviously, they're way faster than than Bubba Walsh. Even look at what Truex did this year. Now, yet again, Truex, passed 8 cars, finished 15th. Didn't kill your line. Didn't make the album, but absolutely didn't kill your line. The guy starting last today is probably going to be a really, really safe play. Okay. Yet again, between 21st and 22nd, the fact that these guys almost have more practice, also almost have a better understanding of what the track is going to be doing at this point in the race, at this point in the night. The guy starting 21st and 22nd is most likely going to be the second or third to last guy being put in your lineups. And so I'm focusing on this area. We're gonna bold these guys here, and then I guess I don't like that. I don't like how it's looking. We're gonna go ahead and just kind of, what is making them yellow? Fuck it. And then actually, I forgot I have my interest here. Hold on. Where are we at? I don't even use this stuff anymore, but I forget I still have this. Wrong one. Whoops. You see, look at here. Actually, I'll just kind of go through. We'll highlight the other guys. So clearly, I like the guy starting last. Yet again, this is not highlighting, their value, because like there's a real chance Todd Gilliland is also going to be a really, really great play. The fact that he's 58, there's a real chance he's the only 5K driver in this field. Starting 20th is going to be very, very, very important in terms of salary. So I would actually have quite a lot of interest in him. It's at this point where I start, really, really getting nervous once we start moving forward. And then, I mean, at this point, I think Priest honestly gets ran over. He was very fast, very aggressive in this race. The poor guys already had a terrible time at Bowman Gray this weekend, but I just don't think Priest survives the variance. I think the variance of his the outcomes of his races are very much in the negative, because and unlike like a Stenhouse at a plate race, to where you understand that he's either going to win or he's going to lose. In order for Priest to win this, that means he has had to move so many good cars out of the way. I just don't know how revenge like doesn't get back to him, right? So if I'm looking here, like honestly, this is kind of where I'm at. We got a bit of a dead zone, and I mean, actually, I probably have like zero interest in probably these guys here, and very close to not using anybody in the C's. So this is kind of the pool that I would recommend. This is kind of the interest that I would be recommending and playing with and stuff. And really, like Gillen is probably, doesn't even look that appealing, but 5,800 when we're needing to slap in, probably a really expensive guy here, most likely another expensive guy here. I like Bowman. I love Chastain. I think Kyle Busch has a real chance of being fast in this race, plus your lap leaders. I think these are the ways that you want to be building, straight up, entering this race. Past that, we then get into what is the, outcomes of this race when we get to like with 10 to go or 20 to go and whatnot. It's very weird that NASCAR brings this series to this racetrack. They're doing exactly what was advertised in Heat 1, and NASCAR automatically got on the horn and told Kyle Busch to stop, to like calm it down with Justin Haley. Like, what? I don't understand that. From like, is that not the reason you guys are here, NASCAR? Secondly, I mean, you're here for an entertainment factor, and I know everybody in the stands wants to see somebody wrecking somebody for the win late in this race. The fact that yet again, Ty Gibbs was in the 7Ks last year, if I'm not mistaken, if not 8K. Actually, I could probably check that really fast. I'm pretty sure he was like 7,300, but let me bring up the old CSV from last year. Hold on. Give me a moment here. You guys want to look through all my sheets with me? All my old sheets here. Do I have the Clash here? Where we at? Where's the Clash at? How much was Gibbs? Gibbs is 75, okay. So the fact that he was 75 and still worked out is very impressive, but he led so many laps. And so there's a real chance that if your main lap leader in this race is one of the expensive guys and they also get taken out late in this race, there's a real chance they can still be optimal. Because, they're not going from, second to finishing dead last. They're realistically probably going to finish they're going to go from like second to like 15th or 16th with, people who have DNF'd or wrecked out or people who are lapped down or whatever. So really, maybe, kind of, what is the word? Not ignorant, but there's a part of me where I'm not really concerned about the main lap leader being taken out in the race, because I still think he's going to be optimal. There's a real chance he's getting majority lead laps. We're probably going to have a really, really close 1-to-1 leader and fast lap situation. So if somebody goes out there and leads, 70 laps, they have 70 laps, probably, 45, if not more, fast laps. There's a real chance that they can survive being removed or taken out late in this race and stuff. So I'm just going to be trying to get whoever's leading the laps here. I guess tertiary on that. Do I want a one lap leader type of build? Obviously you're going to have to be accurate on who that may be. Um, Obviously, hindsight being 2020 post race, if it's a one lap leader, clearly that was the way to go, or if somebody got taken out early or whatever. But I don't think I'm going to be doing a one lap leader type of race. I think I'm still gonna. I'm gonna do a majority of my lines being two guys in the top four, just a combination of Elliott, Busher, Hamlin, and Reddick, with the primary focuses being on Elliott and Reddick, with Hamlin being next. And or after that, probably just full on stack from the back types of lineups. Those are, or that's kind of my take on this. I view this as a race to where, yes, obviously we need to know who the last three guys are in this race, but it really doesn't matter because we have a good idea of who that is going to be and how that's going to play into lineup construction. Now, I guess going again, these are the four guys that I would have like no issue playing at all. Probably Herbst as well. Actually, I'll add Herbst to that. If any of these guys make it in, obviously, I'm not concerned about it. But yet again, since we're so tight on salary, if McDowell, AJ, if Custer, AJ had some damage, they're not repairing it. So that's not a concern. Nemechek. Also, secondly, you look at Busher, taking Nemechek out. I was pondering what the safer barrier is really going to do at a track like this where the speeds are so slow. Obviously, that barrier is designed to take high speed impacts, okay? But I feel like the guardrail was almost better at a track like this because it would absorb more. When you saw the amount of damage that Nemechek had on that car, because Nemechek he hit the wall going like 50, okay? The safer foam is not going to really deflect any of that because it's not designed to take 50 mile per hour impacts. It's designed to start flexing at 100, 120, 160 mile per hour impacts. That's why the damage was so huge on Nemechek. And so if somebody gets dumped and spun early and they hit that wall, there's a real chance they're just going to be out of the race. I was very surprised that got Custer and AJ, or actually Custer specifically. He didn't break a suspension component on that hit when him and AJ got on the wall. But obviously the guys in green I like. I'm probably if Barry, Dylan, McDowell made it, I'm probably still playing them based on what we need from a salary perspective. So the last three guys are kind of fucking irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. I think we already have the way we want to build and everything like that. So let me go here. Let me go check the chat again. Thank you guys very much for watching and doing all this. Let's see what you guys are saying here. For the 72 guys, the 27 on Twitter and the 45 on YouTube, I appreciate you being here. I'm doing 12 today. That's an easier number for me to mess with because I hand build everything still. In addition to updating all the projection stuff, I'm just doing 12 today. What's going on? Sons, happy to see you. What's going on, Daniels? What's going on, Jake? Yeah, I believe that's it. I think that's that's mainly how I'm approaching this. I'm going to lean heavily towards how the other Busch clashes has gone. I know it's on a different track, but if anything, I think the way that Bowman Gray is laid out almost lends itself to whoever the fastest guy between the top four here has a real chance of surviving the race. And surviving a late race charge from somebody. Let's just say this. Say, regardless of how the race comes together at the end, say we have a restart with 9 laps to go in this race. Okay. Your top guys up front are the fastest. Okay. Very little difference between them. Okay. We either have, the guy in second bump and move the guy in first out of the way, not wrecking, just move him out of the way. They kind of wrestle and tassel, but nothing gets stupid, right? They're still able to maintain, a running position or a finishing position inside the top 4. Okay. Second outcome, leader's able to stay in front. Nobody just can catch him, because he's the fastest car. He's been up there all day. Nothing happens. Okay. Or the third outcome is somebody just absolutely drives through whoever leader is, which it has to be so aggressive, so egregious, like a Hail Mary throw, that if it's happening that late in the race, I just don't see, with how slow some of these cars were, that the safety net of finishing position for whoever gets dumped late in this race isn't like 16th or 14th or something, if not higher. Um, so if anything, probably my biggest concern is the leaders wreck themselves early in this race. I feel like that's my one way to lose right off the bat is if they just start killing themselves right off the bat. But if this race goes to the end and we then kill each other there, I'm not concerned about leaders killing themselves. I think we're gonna arguably be safe. Obviously, that'll affect, place differential in the mid pack or whatever. But at that point, like there's no pinpoint on like what people are going to score here. Obviously, we like Chastain, Bowman, Gillen, and the last three guys starting here. We also like Kyle Busch and stuff, but really this is just going to depend on what happens in this race. The fact that we have SVG, Ryan Preece, Briscoe in a fast car, you know, there's a real chance we get a lot of collisions and wrecks, in the middle of the pack. That's going to help these guys. I mean, as we stated, looking through the past races, that just helps these guys. Even if they're slow, it helps them gain positions and stuff. So I do believe I've said everything I wanted to. I think I've talked about everything I wanted to. Yet again, if you are looking to grab SaberSim, I would suggest that you get it through us. If you want to use my projections or Sheets' projections, we do have a NASCAR package only. But I think using our core and, obviously getting SaberSim through us is obviously the thing that I would suggest the most. But past that, I don't really have anything else to add. I appreciate you guys joining me this early on a Sunday. Also, I didn't want to go live during the heats. I think that's just too distracting. I didn't want to do it in between the small window between the end of, or not the heats, but the end of the LCQ and the start of the race. I think this is just, I don't think there's much changing at that point other than who the drivers are. And I think we can give a pretty green pass to those guys once they make it in the race. So anyway, past that, I'll see you guys in future videos talking about Daytona. Going back to Zach to the future. I'm at Atlanta. If you guys see me, feel free to come up to me. I'll be at Atlanta both days. I'll be in the Peach Pit for the ZZ Top cover band Saturday night. But if you see me, feel free to stop by. I'll shake your hand. I'll tell you thank you for watching my stuff, like I've done to people in Phoenix in the past. But I will probably not have service at the track. Very well, good service at the track. So if you want to try and meet me or do something at Atlanta, let's talk about it, before that day, because there's a real chance I just don't answer that day. Anyway, past that, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next week or next race, whatever it is, whatever. Good luck today, guys. Bye-bye.